So we had a discussion in a group that is mainly focused on attachment styles and body-oriented psychotherapy. I joined that group a while ago, and recently I find I cannot relate so much to it anymore. Before I knew I was autistic, I was doing a lot of research on CPTSD, trauma. And then at some point I came across the attachment theory and I looked into it for a bit. It is an interesting concept. I felt I was rather on the avoidant, dismissive, or disorganized part of the spectrum. But then I realized that I was not that independent actually, that I struggled with a lot of stuff. But I definitely needed that solitude, the space away from people to recharge. But it was a physical need. It wasn't psychological, but it was a physical need. My body would go into meltdown or shutdown if I interacted too much socially, if I was surrounded constantly by people. I had even a burnout in 2007 when I was in a situation that didn't allow me solitude and silence the way I would have needed it. So something just didn't add up. So there are a lot of overlaps between complex PTSD and autism. So, of course, at some point I realized that and also looked into autism. And yeah, suddenly a lot of things made total sense to me. So I had some encounters with psychologists, and this is a really good book because it's written by somebody who is autistic and who really understands the psychological approach in psychotherapy. I think this is the most important thing here. When you go to a therapist, there is a strong need to be heard, to be validated, to be understood. And if a therapist uses devaluation, there is trauma added on top of what you already have experienced and why you went to psychotherapy in the first place. So again, no help is given. Richard Grandin talks about tertiary gaslighting.
Gaslighting is less forgivable. Secondary gaslighting can be quite benign because it's just so far outside of the experience of what your family and friends know to be about relationships and what they know of the person you're with, that they just go, that can't be right, you must be getting it wrong. So that can be benign. It can also be malignant, which you have to watch out for. But tertiary gaslighting is coming from a professional. It's less forgivable. It's no longer going to be a thing that I say that it's okay for counsellors and psychotherapists to not really know about narcissistic abuse. For fuck's sake, if there was a major fault on a phone, I'm using that as an example because it's something I saw in the news, there's a phone that's out right now, it's a particular name, it's a particular brand, and it blows up. Now, if you sell mobile phones and you didn't pick that up in the news, that's on you. There's something wrong with you. If you're a mobile phone repair specialist and you don't know that the Samsung N1ZI has a tendency to burst into flames in people's hands and turn into a fucking grenade, that's on you. That's a lack of due diligence. That's a lack of professional care. It's not an excuse anymore. Documentaries are being made about it. Every other news article you read that is discussing either or is critiquing Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton is talking about both of them and their rampant malignant narcissistic personality disorders. There's no way coaches and counsellors and psychotherapists can claim, psychotherapists certainly could never claim to have not known about it. It's not an acceptable excuse. That's tertiary gaslighting. Everybody should know about this. If your coach or counsellor or therapist, life coaches maybe they don't need to know about it. You shouldn't really use the wrong tool for the job. Life coaches probably shouldn't really. You can't blame them for not knowing about personality disorders. Therapists and counsellors, hell yes, they should know. You shouldn't. If you just go to a coach or a therapist or a counsellor, I keep saying coach, and they don't have the information about narcissistic abuse, then that's really, really going to mess your head up. Because inside of your head, you'll be going, well, this is the authority figure. I'm paying them to help me. I'm saying, literally, please throw me the circular tube donut thing that helps me to swim whilst I'm drowning. And they're going, no, we don't have any of them for your situation, which doesn't exist. And also, you're not drowning. That's just your perception. You see what I'm saying? Really, really screws people up. Can make them very, very sick, very, very distressed. And they can start to get physical symptoms from it as well.
So Richard Grandin comes mainly from the perspective of narcissistic abuse, but I'm using his video to explain tertiary gaslighting coming from a therapist, because as an autistic person, if you come across a therapist who has no idea what autism is and how you experience sensory overload and your struggles, then this is the same thing. Because as an autistic, if undiagnosed, especially for females, this is an issue. We have struggled all our lives, and things were difficult for us, what for other females seemed no problem at all. The struggle is really so stressful that it may come to a point where you wish you had a vacation from life. And then it's better to be by yourself and not be surrounded by any people, because it's usually embarrassing and nobody will understand your extreme reaction that has maybe built up over weeks, one stressor added to the next, until you simply cannot take it anymore, and then you explode. And there is no understanding coming from family, friends, or boss, where if you have a job, then there most of all you need to mask and pretend and act in a way that your boss wants you to. You can't just be yourself. You can't have a meltdown in the middle of serving customers. So even if your environment is very stressful, you have to pretend that it isn't. And there is a lot of trauma that can happen this way. And then you seek help, you go to a therapist, and if that therapist also doesn't understand, isn't educated about autism, female autism, it makes your situation rather worse than better. Ways be more damaging because you think you get some help and then you trust, you open up, and you are invalidated all over again. And this here is very often the case for autistics. The problem is also that many so-called professionals have the wrong idea about what autism is, and their perception is actually not up to date, and they still think that we lack empathy. But this is still existing, unfortunately.
So that can't be happening, you must have made it up. It's not intentional gaslighting, but the effect is it loosens your grip on the objective reality of the situation, and it loosens your grip on the capacity to call abuse abuse and actually say, hey, something went wrong here. That's secondary gaslighting. It's unintentional. Tertiary gaslighting is when you actually go and get professional help, and that professional therapist, counselor, or life coach, they then run the same game. They then say, are you sure this is something that really happened? Are you sure this isn't all inside of your head? Are you sure this isn't just your perception of what happened and not what really happened? Or they'll say to you, patronizingly, well, we can't talk about what really happened. We can only talk about your perception of what happened. Which is like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Are you saying that my perception is faulty? Can I not see reality? Is the sky not blue? Is water not wet? Why do we have to talk in this weird relativistic way that puts the victim of narcissistic abuse back in the soup? It puts them back into this thick soup that they can't quite swim through, but they can't also quite crawl out of, and they're doing it without the little life circle.
So we just understand things in a different way sometimes. So when I first looked at this picture, I was like, what's this? I'm not sure what I'm looking at. And then I just saw the head of the beetle, eyes, and here is the body, like a bumblebee, and the hind legs. And then I read the description and I saw, oh, it was a dog getting its treat. And I was talking about animal behavior with a friend. She works with horses and she says it's so clear how they express what they mean, and human beings, they don't do that. They often play or use strange words that make it hard to understand what's actually meant. And animals have very clear body language because it's always expressed in the exact same way. As you see in this video,
the horse is already eyeballed and looking back saying, hey, who's coming up on my herd? Who? You notice these other horses aren't really paying attention to him. This horse right here, when I saw this video before I knew what was happening, I said, this horse is on a ball. This horse is like a midget at a urinal. He's on his toes. He ain't letting nobody get in and move in on his herd. He was on it, snap, crackle, and pop. He didn't miss nothing. It's coming up on my herd. Boom. He's all over it. He's all over it, and he ain't going to let nothing go. And in a minute, he's going to come across here with, look at him, walking with purpose. Look at that movement. His movement is, I'm paying attention. What's going on? I'm walking past. All the other horses are ignoring him. All the other horses are calm. I'm going to pause it here for a minute. You see this horse right here turning? What did that horse do? That horse turned his flank and went away because this horse is coming in saying, yo, dude, me and you's about to have a come to Jesus meeting. Why are you getting this close? He is warning. His ears are back. He's approaching with direction. He's being clear. He's not begging. He's not asking. He's not trying to make friends with this guy. He's not trying to have a conversation with this guy. He is being a horse talking in horse language. This horse absolutely understands it, sees it, recognizes it, and reacts to it. Remember, I tell you, what you do depends on what the horse does. What this horse did depends on what this horse did. Had this horse turned and walked away, what's about to happen next probably wouldn't have happened. But he didn't turn and walk away. He turned sideways and he showed how flashy he is. He's got his big tail. His neck's up. He's standing proud. His neck's a little bowed. So what happens? That's a challenge. This horse is saying, you didn't leave when I told you, because I came in and said, get away, and you tried to front me off. You tried to push back. You didn't yield to my authority. Now I got to see if I'm higher than you, or I got to show you that I am higher than you. These two horses are talking. Here he comes. Hey, dude, did you miss my message? This is me when I tell a horse to move, and they give me that look like, nah, who are you? I ain't moving. This is how I come in a horse, just like that. I'm swinging a rope and I'm coming in. Oh, hell no, you didn't just ignore me. And I'm coming in, and that horse like, uh-oh, I better pay attention. So this horse is being clear, direction, coming in, moving, says, oh, you better listen. When I talk to you, you better pay attention. He's not being mean, bad. He's not being difficult. He's not being, oh, he needs to go to anger management. He's just angry. He should be able to communicate nicely and just talk to this horse. And they should be able to talk it out instead of resulting to this violence. That's human crap, people. It ain't horse crap. Quit putting your human eyes and human emotion on horses. They're horses. This is how they talk. See these two horses? This horse is saying, dude, did you not hear me? This horse is saying, yeah, I heard you, but I don't think you're bad enough I need to listen to you. I think maybe I'm higher than you. This one says, dude, I just told you, and I think I'm higher than you. Guess what? When two high horses meet, one of them's going to have to prove that the other one's higher. Please, you should have. So you give a routine to a horse so they know what's going to happen next. These horses are talking horsey language. This horse looked at him first and said, don't come up. Then this horse didn't leave, so this horse charged him and kind of ran at him, forcefully trying to intimidate him to get him to leave. He still didn't leave. Now this horse is saying, you know what? I asked you please. I asked you pretty please when I ran up to you. Now I'm telling you, you better. He's going to stomp his foot. He's curling his back. He's showing strength and dominance, saying, you know what? You're about to get the whole ball of wax here if you don't leave. See? Look at me. Look at me. I got both. Don't make me put an ass whooping on you. Now, what did this horse say? This horse says, don't make me fight you. This one said, you know what? Let's go. Let's go. You ain't so bad. I think I can take you. I don't care about your leg swamping, and I don't care that you can stomp the ground, and I don't care how much you bow your neck. I ain't leaving. This is what happens when people get out there with their carrot sticks and their purple rope, and they swing it, and they try to impress them like this, and the horse goes, you know what? I'm tired of you swinging your rope. I don't think you can make me. I don't think you're going to hit me with that rope. I don't think that rope is bad enough to make me move. And what happens is most people know how to threaten really well like this horse did, but they can't pull the trigger. And I talk about anybody can hold a gun, anybody can point a gun at somebody and tell them to stop. But to pull the trigger and to take a life, you have to be willing, you have to mentally be ready to pull that trigger. Most people can't pull the trigger with horses, and horses figure it out. So they ignore the stomping and the bowing. What this horse was doing, trying to threaten him, did not impress him. So this horse has two options. To say, oh, well, I'll just put you back in a stall, or I'll give you a treat. Or maybe you don't want to listen to me today, so I'll put you back in a stall and give you some hay, because you're not in a good mood. That's how you teach a horse to be disrespectful. That's how stupid humans train horses to be disrespectful. Or you can be like this horse. Okay, you don't want to listen to me swinging a rope? You don't want to listen to me asking you and telling you? Guess what? I'm going to make you. And bam. So, now we have these two horses in a fight which didn't need to happen. If this horse was stronger, if this horse had beat him before or made him run off before, this wouldn't happen. This happens when horses are allowed to think they're equal or that you're not high. This happens when you have somebody begging a horse with cookies and treats and lovey-dovey and letting the horse dictate when they do something, and I don't want to make my horse do, and if you're scared, I'll put you back, and I won't make you go through that puddle, and you don't have, this is what it comes down to. And then what happens is a horse is labeled as bad, mean, aggressive, doesn't like people, hates women, hates men, is only a man's horse, and all these other foolish excuses. This is just a perfect example of horse communication and how people miss it and don't get it. So these two guys are having it out. Ears back, head back, because he's about to jab his head and cock. When a horse pulls that head back with those ears, you better be ready, because that mouth is coming forward. The legs are up. They're trying to get higher and taller. This horse is being higher than this horse right now, so he's looking down on him a little bit. Neither of these horses are backing up. Both their tails are active. His front feet are a little bit higher, but these two horses are having a discussion. They are not trying to kill each other. They are not being mean, wild horses that need to go to anger management and need counseling, and, you know, had their owners put pink blankets on them, they would be more calm because pink is a calming color. None of that crap matters, these horses. Crazy people. All right, so these two guys, good boy. Look at that horse. This horse is really good dominance and moving up. This horse may have gotten beat by this horse before. This horse may have been at a bachelor herd coming in trying to take the herd. My guess is these two horses are stallions. This stallion has the herd, and this stallion's been stalking the herd and thinks he's ready to challenge this guy. And you know what? I agree with this guy. I think he is ready to challenge. And I think this horse submits at the end. This horse has a cut on his back, you'll notice in a second, on his rear end here. Right here, he's already got a cut where he's been kicked or cut. He's about to get a bite. This is what kills me. You know how much this horse weighs? He's got his front feet down, how strong this neck is, and how hard these teeth are going to hit this horse when he bites him. And then I get people, mainly women, coming up to me when I hit a horse with a rope. You shouldn't hit that rope. Hurt. This is how horses talk, people. They don't use ropes and tails. This is how they talk. It's violent, it's aggressive, it's assertive, and it's not wimpy, pink, cookie, puffy, soft, frilly, feather crap. Carrot stick, whatever. So this horse has a thing. You're going to see this horse kick out really quick here. Good bite right there. Says, hey, dude, I told you you're going to turn your butt on me. I ain't scared of those back feet. I'll still bite you. Okay, then I'm going to kick at you. That quick was pretty quick. He got him in the chest probably. Horse protected his mouth, moved his head up. Ears are still back, still showing aggressive, still showing dominance. If you notice where this happened, this horse has moved in and the other horse has moved away. This horse is making the other horse yield. This horse is making the other horse move away.
It's really, really clear. This is what animals do. Not only horses, but cats, dogs, cattle. And it's a very clear, defined body language. This is another example.
So as you watch this little baby here, it's going to be walking around the stallion. The stallion's ears are back, but the stallion ears are back to keep kind of focused on what the baby's doing. He's not, that was a little head move. See that little head move? Now, was the horse trying to get something out of his eye or a fly? See, he's rubbing his eye. Maybe that wasn't to the baby and the baby knew that and he didn't move away. The baby moved away now because he didn't know if the horse was going to get up. But as soon as the horse sits up and becomes calm, the baby goes in to explore more. And he's smelling and he went there, head move. See, that was a head shake. I don't know if that was to the baby or not. The baby's like, hey, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to move in. But the ears are back not because it's threatening the baby. He's just keeping an eye on the baby with his ears and his eye. When his tail moves, when his head moves, then you add that to the ears and you get more horse communication. In a minute, you're right there. Boom. There you go. Head and eyes and ears. Much clearer communication. The baby absolutely knew that. The baby learned from that horse what that means. The baby backed up, stopped what it's doing, got his nose off the horse. Still a little curious, going to go back. No tail, no head movement, no nothing. The ears are still back. The horse on the ground is allowing it. He's allowing the baby to learn. He's communicating with his head a little bit there, kind of moving it, but he's just watching. If he wants that baby to stop, he'll give it clear communication. Little tail swish. See that little bitty tail, and the baby go, okay, I got it. I better move. And the baby went away.
I think that autistics actually give the same kind of signals, but people, neurotypicals, just don't react to that or choose to ignore it, and people don't understand, they don't get it, they cannot relate. Yeah, and we end up preferring solitude anyway, on top of the physical need for timeouts. We just find the stress of peopling too much. It's too complicated. And what turns us on is actually special interest, diving into research, reading, whatever. And many autistics are very good at writing. It comes more easily than verbal communication. And we end up doing that to the point of being too much for neurotypicals. For us, it's a natural way to communicate. And we also have to learn to put a lid on that, tune it down, so that neurotypicals don't feel flooded by information that they have no interest to know about or can't relate to. But very often autistics are way better in writing than communicating verbally. It depends on the person, of course, and one can learn. I used to be very shy, not talk at all, and now I can do way better. But it took a long time, and I needed to lose my shyness. That most of all, because that interfered with everything. Once I was no longer shy, I could at least meet people from human to human, so my interaction skills have definitely improved by now. So again, that attachment theory doesn't really apply to autistics. And what also is very important, and that's a really good way to point out that autism is genetic, but there are some additional conditions that can really be corrected with the proper diet, and that's usually including meat-based and high fat. And this can really turn around things because mental health will be improved, depression reduced or will vanish completely, anxiety levels will go down, and for me it was really extremely fascinating to observe in myself. I have been doing somatic experience therapy, and I have mentioned that before. As a vegan, it was really difficult for me to cope, and I felt stressed out. It was kind of overwhelming what we did, and I couldn't really feel much of a positive change, and I felt we plateaued at some point. And then I became a carnivore, and that's when things started to turn around. It was really interesting to observe. So not only mentally but physically, and that's why I say diet should always be included. Whatever kind of therapy you do, you need to be aware that the proper diet will help you tremendously in mental health. And this is very important for therapists to know. It's not necessarily a person that we are attached to, but places. A place is so safe because it's always the same, and we are in control of it. If we change something, it is because we want to change it. And everything stays always at the same room, and we know where to find things, and people are different. They are confusing. They have moods. They move around. And attachment theory focuses so much on facial interaction. However, if you are autistic, you may not recognize a face. You can walk past a person and not see that person, but it turns out it might have been your neighbor. But because you didn't expect to meet that person on the street, you just didn't recognize that face. So facial interaction becomes a completely different thing if you tend to not recognize faces, but rather look for whatever, a special handbag, a tattoo, or the same hat. When I met with an autistic friend, I had never seen her before, so she told me she has yellow headphones. I told her I am dressed in blue. And then, indeed, I did not recognize her face. It was completely different from what it looked on the picture, but I saw a person who was standing there, yellow headphones on. So then I knew, okay, that's the only person with yellow headphones. That must probably be this friend.
Autism is something called simultagnosia, and this is where you see the part and you lose the whole. They'll focus on the hat, lose the head, they'll get the earrings, lose the face, they'll process the fingers or the hand and lose the rest of the person. They might process that there's the person but lose the room. They might process that person and lose who they're with. And this can cause not just object blindness, trouble recognizing what an object is unless you see it being used, or maybe when you make a noise from it or you move it, but it can also cause context blindness, which can mean that you go up and start talking to somebody not seeing that they're actually talking to somebody else. Or it might mean that you don't use the cues of what you're seeing around that person to understand what it is that they're doing. It might mean that you, because you can only recognize things when they're in a certain place or when people are using them, it might mean that you always insist on things being put back into the place that helps you recognize what they are. It might mean that you have difficulty when other people move things out of the place where you know them. Or it might mean that you hold back and wait until other people are using everything so that you can understand what you're seeing. When you have problems with simultagnosia, One of the things that can happen is sports can be really hard, because you might see the ball but not be able to process that here comes the ball, put your hands up. Or you might see the ball but not easily put together that that person caught it and they're throwing it to that person, and what that means for waiting for when it comes to you. And so that's one of the things that can happen with the context blindness part of simultagnosia. You can find it really difficult to organize. So you will get this little thing or that little thing or that little thing, but not find it easy to think about all the different things that you need to get together to make something happen. One of the reasons why when people are talking, you might get really fed up really quickly with listening, because it just gives you a headache and feels really overwhelming. Not just because you can't easily put meaning to the language, but because you can't keep up and make sense of it. It doesn't mean anything. You can't see it. You can't, they're not showing you the experiences that go together with the language. Some people with simultagnosia might find going out into crowds or being social or being in a supermarket really hard, because when they go into a place that's got a lot of bright lights and is really busy, it can look much more bit. And so people with simultagnosia, they often will look away, and by looking away, they can see things more as a whole. So it's a special trick that some of them use to be able to make sense of the whole thing by not looking at it in a straight way, in a direct way. And some people with simultagnosia, when everything is bit, they'll squint, or they look through their fingers. And that helps them to cut out some of the information that's coming in. Gives their brain a bit of a rest, helps their brain catch up. And some people with simultagnosia, they really like having low lighting, or they might have sunglasses or tinted lenses, and that can cut out some of the information that's coming in. And when they do that, their brain gets more time to keep up, and it can start to glue some of the things together that they're seeing. So if you have simultagnosia as part of your autism, as part of your autism fruit salad, then you might try sunglasses, or you might try some tinted lenses to see if it helps your brain keep up better with what you're seeing. If you have simultagnosia, then you might only be able to stay in really busy places for a shorter time than other people. It might make you really tired and give you a headache and make you too excited and nervous because everything is all in bits. So you might not last as long as other people. You might have to go and get some space on your own. But the other people might not understand that because they don't have the same problem. You find that you are emotionally overstimulating this person, and that together with overwhelming them sensorily is heightening that self-protection response. You can reduce that in a whole lot of ways. One of the most easy things to do is, instead of being opposite them, which is quite sensorily bombarding and in the animal world quite potentially threatening on a physical level, if your nervous system is this hair trigger, heightened reactive state, you go off to the side. Instead of interacting with them directly, which in their state can be taken as socially invasive, no matter how much they want it interpersonally. Instead of interacting with them directly, if you interact through the object and the issue instead of the person, the heat comes off. and they can relax. Watch how many autistic people interact with each other. They do so in parallel via an object. When they do tend to bombard each other directly, one will tend to start tuning out the other and becoming indirectly confrontational. So take that as your language.
So there are also people that oppose attachment theory. One of them is Jerome Kagan. And I think this is certainly something that plays a big role in upbringing. I think if you had a mentor that supported you and showed you things in a way you could understand and learn that were not traumatic, not invalidating, this makes a very big difference on how you do later in life. So this is a scene from Temple Grandin, the movie, and it shows how Temple Grandin's aunt taught her about facial expressions, and this is just such an amazing way to show somebody who doesn't learn this naturally.
Why don't you want to go to college? People. I don't understand people. Because the people at school know I don't understand them, and some of them are my friends anyway. What don't you understand? Girls are all goofy over boys. Talk about silly pop groups and clothes, and say things like, "Why are you so grumpy when I'm happy?" And I say, "I'm happy." And I say, "Well, you don't look happy." And I say, "Can't you see I'm thinking? And can't you see I'm sad?" I don't know what they're talking about.
What do you look like when you're happy?
Like this.
No, that's not what you look like when you were telling me about the man from Uncle. You look like this.
Funny looking.
Happy, and that's you angry.
Happy. I'm happy in that one.
I'd say more satisfied.
Satisfied.
See if they come up to me. Then just stay still. You can't have it. If I was just to jump up suddenly, they would jump back. And then if I just stood here quietly or sat here quietly, they'd gradually come up to me. You know, they can either be kind of in seek mode or in fear mode. If I make a lot of rapid motion, then that tends to scare them. If I stand up, they won't come up as close. If I lay down on the ground, they'll lick you. Animals are attracted to new things. New things are both scary and attractive. Move my foot. 20 years ago, when I designed the center track restrainer system, you know, which was being put in all the large meat packing plants, I got kind of thinking, oh, I've just designed a system that they're killing cattle in the world's largest meat plants. And I was standing on this catwalk looking over this whole big sea of cattle underneath me. I got to thinking, those cattle would have never been born if we hadn't put the bulls and the cows together. Those cattle would have never existed at all. We bred them, we've got to treat them right. Now, beef cattle have got the best life. They're living outside. You know, all beef cattle, regardless of whether they go to one of the specialty markets or they go to the regular supermarket, spends at least half its life outside on pasture. Advantage of that tendency to go back to where they came from. That's a natural behavior of cattle. And then the other advantage of the curved chute is as the animals enter it, they don't see the people standing around the squeeze chute.
Roofed. The chute gets smaller, but the cattle won't mind. They don't see any danger. They think they're just getting into another truck. The stairway leads them gently upwards. The floor becomes a conveyor. A rest rises up to meet their chests, so they're comfortably carried. They'll be very calm.
Proper stress-free cattle handling will result in very calm animals. And I think for autistics this is something similar. If we have an environment that we can control, an environment that doesn't stress us out, we will be very calm and we will operate at our best. And because a psychiatrist that I interacted with some while ago was looking at autism based on that, didn't know about female autism, she completely dismissed everything I had told her and all the autistic tests I had done with quite clear results. So this was really a very disappointing experience. And as an autistic, it is very likely that you are exploited at some point because of social naivety. You trust too much, you think that's your friend, okay, you will help them out. And that's why we feel safer with places or objects rather than people.